Okay, so I guess we're going to start today's episode. I wanted to kind of take you guys through more of my day. So we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin and Binance token, but I'm also going to be kind of mixing these episodes up into like vlogs or something. So you'll still get the content. I'm just going to try editing it a bit. I might even do some of the zooming in on the screen I'm talking about myself. I'm not sure. So this is kind of a first run at that. So let's dive into the charts. Okay, yeah, recording. Okay. Yeah, we're recording. Okay, here, this one. Okay, so what we're gonna do right now, and is we're gonna always start with kind of the same focus, right? So in the mentality and the mindset of the trader, I always want to take a look at the pyramids of Egypt from afar to really bask in the glory and the size and the time that it might have taken to get there. So in this particular case, I'm comparing Bitcoin to the pyramids of Egypt. Not quite the same feat, I don't necessarily suspect, but nonetheless, I like the metaphor. So as we go farther back, we get to see more and more of the picture of Bitcoin. So if we include all the way back here to 2013 in November, that was the previous bull run before the $20,000 bull run. Look at the amount of time it took. Let's just measure this out here for fun. 1,220 days until you had like a pretty clear break out of the box. That's a long time, ladies and gentlemen, right? So when we were looking at Ethereum, it was 800 days. 800 days. 800 days. So what is the value of zooming out? It gives us perspective. So as we get closer and closer and we start to look at the trading range, we can assume a few things. There's a lot of the times most people get in right near the top or the hype cycle. This is where most average or new investors enter a market. They get in when they shouldn't be getting in. What we need to do in this style of trading is really, and investing too, is get used to finding things that are undervalued or misrepresented in value. Certain things like startups or companies that are don't yet have like a profit model, but are creating something valuable for the community. So being able to spot those things can be extremely beneficial to you as an individual. So when Bitcoin started running up again in 2000 and continuing for, 2000 and what was it, 16, 17, up through $400, $600, I started to pay attention. Now, where we are right now in the story, okay, we'll cut off. Let's just start from the selling climax to where we are now. So for those of you that are part of the private group, awesome, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're not, just study Wyckoff method or join the private group. No questions, refund. So if you're not happy, just we'll give your money back, no problem. But this is the most important part. So I do suggest you study it, whether you do it with us or with someone else, or just by yourself, because we're all grown individuals here. This specific style of pattern recognition is important because it tells us the bigger story. It leads into that perspective preface that we want to keep to build a positive hypothesis. So as we see now, we're in phase D. We had our test in phase C, our spring in phase C, our test started phase D, and we had our first LPS or last point of supply where we are now. One of the things I've speculated here is, look, guys, I'm not trying to predict the market. There's two potentials. We come down or we go up. Right now, we can go either way very easily. We are in a somewhat immature market here with Bitcoin, and it's easy to say that there may be hidden supply out here that we haven't seen come into the markets yet. Maybe someone finds an extra hard drive with $50,000 Bitcoin and just liquidates it on the market. But what we notice is that there's big companies like Grayscale who bought like 17,000 Bitcoin in the last few months. So that supply is getting chewed up by demand quite quickly. So we can reduce the likelihood of this happening, right? The more big money that enters and has the ability to consistently enter, it chews up that large amount of supply that's coming to the plate at any given moment. So Bitcoin hasn't had its SOS yet. So the SOS is a clear change of character that breaks out and moves through the trading range itself. So what we want to pay attention to is understanding in the perspective of time where we are. So this SOS is something that's going to really indicate to us the importance of the market signaling a new bull trend. Now, we had it in Ethereum already. right? So here's the spring, here's your test, your LPS, and a break outside of the box. And with Ethereum, let's imagine that Bitcoin and Ethereum are somewhat similar. You had an 83% move from the middle of the box, like just the top of the box outwards. What would that look like on Bitcoin? Well, it's almost akin to this, right? You can see a very similar pattern. We had our reaccumulation range here for Bitcoin to begin with. We charted this one out. It was quite noticeable once we figured it out. Reaccumulation, that's a thing. Always learning, and there's no way you can ever know everything. So they look very similar, you know, the reaccumulation pattern on both Ethereum and Bitcoin, so reaccumulation and then a breakout. Although Ethereum had a much clearer breakout, again signaling to me that the market's hands here are much stronger than that of Bitcoin. I think Ethereum has bid in the larger market's interest and hands. So what we're trying to do here, more than make an investment, is understand where and when to make an investment. So both Ethereum and Bitcoin are in phase D. This is ultimately an amazing place to be, as let's call ourselves let's go with moderate investors, right? Some of you are totally new to this. Some of you have a lot more experience. So let's go with the moderate investor, a little bit of the mix of the advanced and the beginner, right? We'll go with the moderate investor. When we know where we are in the market cycle, it allows us to execute with like precision and almost a passion. It's the wrong word for it because you never want to be married to an investment. So I want to show you the play that I've been making for the last little while. For those of you again that are in the private bear den, you'll know because I've been going over this on a frequent basis in the live trading chat. So I've been trading Binance here. We saw very clearly in their spring in June and July that they were going to pivot to a decentralized index and that the Binance token would be their staked liquidity pool. This excited me. During the test, I built a position of a fairly large amount of Binance, not a small amount. Let's go with that. On that first SOS, this breakout, we saw a 52% gain, and I sold 70% of my position up this run. Not just at the top, but throughout the whole process. I don't want to be sound insensitive, but I always thought, okay, how is the best way to trade this? You buy like a Valley Girl often and in random random places all the time, just at least when you're building. And then you sell just as frequently as a vehement street salesman. You're like, yeah, I'm hustling my let's say jewelry or so, yeah. Hustling with my jewelry, right? So after this SOS phase, these big backup phases can take a long time. So we know don't enter now until it turns around. We saw that with BAT and Algo. Look how low to the bottom of the regression channel that it came back to with BAT, right? All the way back down to the bottom. Not a big deal, but still not fun in comparison. Binance, on the other hand, actually started to turn around the other day, so we started watching. I know my chart's a little messy, but these are like intraday charts. So when I always talk about removing noise. I talk about removing noise from your trading chart. But when I'm in the middle of a trade, I let both the big picture and the little picture kind of tell me that story all at once. So when we had our primary selling climax here, and we started to build a new accumulation range. So again, some of you, I hope you'll know what we're talking about already. But we saw this accumulation range with a rising an ascending channel gradient through the box. So this area here, I re-entered my position. So I was only at like 80 Binance token after I had left a couple hundred of them we'll say at the very least. Now I rebuilt my position here over the last few days, definitely more than a couple hundred of them. So I've been in this fantastic position starting here because I believe that this is the first turnaround of this trade. I believe what Binance is working on is extremely exciting. The fact that I can stake tokens for liquidity and become a part of their launchpad to me is brilliant. It's like a decentralized venture capital fund. It's fantastic. I think it's an amazing play, and I put my money where my mouth is for this one. So what's exciting now is in this smaller story, we get the opportunity to use that perspective, right? So we looked at an accumulation range. In Ethereum, it was 800 days. In Bitcoin, it's been around 700 days. In Binance, it was around 600 days. But look how short this accumulation box was. This was only 8 days before we saw the first primary SOS and then LPS SOS, and then LPS test out of the box here. We could even come down here to test this before we see a much bigger move out. But what's important is not that we make this trade, but that we observe it. So even if I'm not in this trade, like let's say Tron, for instance, not a trade I'm in right now, or Omisego, not a trade that I'm in right now, or those of you that have asked about Theta, not a trade I'm in right now, but I've been observing. So what do we see? We see a lot of similarities between the story that we've been looking at in so many different places. Out of the box breakouts and a massive, massive extension through the regression lines after you leave the box. So here's Theta. Here's Omisego, again, big explosions out of the box. And here's Tron, big explosion out of the box. Now, let's use Tron as an example. Don't enter yet. This is not financial advice. Don't do anything that I say, even if I'm doing it. Just come up your own conclusion. That's what we're looking for, empowered individuals. But this, to me, looks like a new trading range. So if we see a development where Tron closes above this trading range and does this, I'm hyper interested in this. So what I do is I go around and I set all these little markers on the side of my screen here that basically sets an alert. So I'm setting alerts all the time to remind me that if it crosses this point, it will give me an alert so I can start paying attention again, because I'm interested in the momentum trade. Right, so Omisego too, like look at the momentum that came out of the trade of that second backup phase. It was like 248%. Same with Tron, you're looking at 100 and something percent. KNC, all of these, what is this? 100% on Tron there. So back to my Binance story. I believe what we're witnessing now is the change of character to the positive side for Binance to move through another SOS and an LPS test. I've taken months to build this position. Oh, wait, it's almost months. It's almost 2 months, right? Yeah. Approximately 80 days to build a position here. One token, one position, one idea. That's it. I was playing in more to begin with, but now I like this. It seems smarter to just focus and be patient with what you're building and where you are in the market, instead of trying to chase it sometimes. So I've built into this position. I've got the smaller time frames telling me that we're on the positive. Look, and we just broke out of a descending channel. We're moving to the upside, and we can see it more clearly here on the 15-minute. Boom, outside of that channel. This is a very bullish move. I think we're going to see a lot of momentum out of Binance. So what does that mean? Well, I guess let's finish the rest of this not on the computer. Maybe let's just go outside. So one of the things I want to point out here is the time that it takes, right? So when I'm talking about 80 days to build a position, and we're seeing the net positive of that now, at least where we can see that there's a lot more room for potential. We were able to call the fundamentals like a month before they really released anything. Then the real decisive factor is to what do you do with the rest of your time. So for those of you in the private den, if you go to the extra reading materials, there are tons of books that were written everywhere from like 1880 to 2020. And it's all public domain, so it's not content written by me. But it keeps you entertained, moving forward curiously, and always trying to do things. So I'm going to fill you in on something else that happened today. We sold our first NFT, the very first Arcane Bear collector's item, only one of them. I drew it up on the iPad, and then we ended up posting it in the private group and on Twitter, and it sold within like 35 seconds. So I'm going to show you guys this because it went to a fantastic artist inside of the Arcane Bear family. So he's posted some of his own stuff here too. So here's the Bit Hat guy that I had drawn up this morning. Yeah, I like doing art. That's a true story. And then here's some of the other art that they've created. Dirty D or Rarible. I don't know his name. He hasn't named it yet. Anyways, the point of this is you want to be able to go and experiment and really play, because when we're talking about 800 days of accumulation or 1,000 days of accumulation in Bitcoin, if you just get excited and throw everything in all at once, you're gonna be left hurting somewhere along the way. You need to first recognize where you are in the markets, and then this game becomes so much easier. So I want to get a shout out to this last one, so we'll kind of end the show here, but The funds that we made from selling that art piece are going to be locked up in a platform called Kiva. So Kiva is a nonprofit organization that makes loans to entrepreneurs around the world at no APY financing. So say someone in Nigeria or women in Guatemala who could normally never get a loan for a few $1,000s because they don't have the proper paperwork, but they're good people and they're doing good work. Kiva works with partner companies and nonprofits around the world to vet these entrepreneurs, write up a loan and a time that they get to pay that loan back. So the funds that go from that, we're going to stake on Kiva. Check them out, kiva.org, and we're going to stake it with one of these entrepreneurs. So here you go. Aman needs $1,000 to help her pay her daughter's medical expenses. She gives us 27 months. So I would, this loan's been fulfilled. Nice, good. That's good. So not all of them are entrepreneurs. Some of them are people asking for loans that have a reputable background, and she's asked for over 2 years here. So it's, sometimes we're just trying to help people out too. But these loans almost always get paid back by people. So here we have Rosa of Ecuador. She needs a loan of $1,100 to pay provisions so that she can reactivate her business. Only $50 more to go. So we are waiting to hear back from Dirty D, and we're going to make a contribution for the amount that he purchased the art piece for, and then we're going to lend to one of the entrepreneurs that he picked. So this is something that we're going to do with the Bear family constantly. We're going to do other ways. Some of them we sponsor podcasts or kind of content. We'll ask for contributions from companies, but the Bear family, you guys will get to help us pick which entrepreneurs around the world we help, and the work that we get to do with you guys. And I think as in the finance sector, this nonprofit, these microloans, getting capital to the people who need it the most during these trying times is something that we can all rally behind. So I look forward to what we get to do next. This was today's episode. I guess give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Smash your keyboard and buy a new one. No, don't wreck the usable things. But leave us some comments, your questions down below. If you like this new vlog style, let us know. And you know what? We'll just leave you with a view of the jungle here. And oh no, I was all blown out in that, wasn't I? Yeah, there's a part of this video where I was just all out of color. That's okay. We'll figure it out here eventually, ladies and gentlemen. Can't always get it right, but this is Teal with the Arcane Bear. I think even though we had like a little bit of a saturation problem for part of this video, it is going to turn out okay.